anyone, regardless of audience size, could go viral and build an audience, even though it feels like there's more competition. There's really not, because there's so many interests, there's so many niches.
Having a brand will unlock the door to so many millions and millions and millions of dollars of potential capital, revenue, followers.
That is what by far makes the most money with socials, is if you have a business that you can tie to your brand and content.
You can post a video that has the potential to get 1 million views if you're speaking about something the right way, or you're sharing an interesting idea or a concept.
First step of what you want to do.
Why is personal brand more important today in 2025 than ever before?
First, I would say it's never been easier. The shift really happened in 2022 to where all platforms became much more of a For You page than a following feed. And when you post short form vertical video, every time that you post across every platform, majority of that reach goes to non-followers who are targeted based on interest. So organic content has never been more like ads than it is today. And that is the reason why it's almost never been easier, even though it feels like there's more competition. There's really not, because there's so many interests, there's so many niches, and the algorithms are designed to do a lot of the hard work for you these days. Additionally, people want to do business with people. So many brands that are faceless and they don't incorporate personalities or people as part of their content are just leaving so much money on the table. And especially if you own a business and you're a founder, people love being able to understand, like, who is the person that founded this business, who's behind it, what are their values, what are their character traits, etc. And that builds a much stronger relationship with customers. There's also plenty of proof in the pudding. Go on Google or ChatGPT and research it. But there's a lot of results that show that when brands market from a personal brand element versus the faceless brand, you see better results across the board with the personal brand side. Last note I'll throw in there is, I truly believe having a personal brand is one of the ultimate hedges against AI. As AI continues to grow more and more and become prevalent and take over so many different aspects of our day-to-day lives, people are going to crave human connection. And there's no better way to build human connection with as many people as possible with the lowest amount of time effort than having a personal brand and creating content.
Absolutely, man. And I'm so excited to dive deep into who you are and why you're uniquely qualified to be talking about this, because you have generated over 5 billion views for clients. I think you've generated over millions and millions and millions of followers for people that you guys work with. But first, I want to sell the episode for somebody that's watching or perhaps listening, because a lot of you guys maybe don't have a face level or surface level desire to be an influencer, right? You don't want to buy multifamily apartments by doing dances on TikTok. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. And these are ideas that you guys could be coming into this interview with previously. But I would invite you to stick around this entire show, because having a brand, even if it's something that's professional and polished, or even if it's just you walking your properties or just sharing your freaking story along the way, will unlock the door to so many millions and millions and millions of dollars of potential capital if you guys choose to invest, revenue if you guys choose to start a side hustle or a business, followers that you guys can leverage to kind of do whatever you want when you want around the world, which is what we do today in our brand with Action Academy and my personal brand. There's so much potential and there's so much upside benefit and not as much downside for you guys sharing your story. So Logan is an absolute expert in this. And so I'm very excited to get into today. So Logan, talk to us a little bit about your background in brand, what got you started in here, and then what is media scaling your company today?
Yeah, totally. And before diving into that, I love that differentiation of influencers versus what we're talking about. What we're talking about is not influencers, it's not doing dances, it's not just chasing like what is the next viral thing that people are doing. Personal brand, the difference I see between influencers and personal brands is personal brands, you do it because you are entrepreneurial, you have a business. Usually it's more informative of your content approach versus influencers, it's more entertainment driven, right? And you're doing anything that's entertaining to get as many views as possible. That's not what we really zone in. That's not our expertise on the influencer side. And the entertainment content side, we have our expertise in the information based, building personal brands that drive and build a brand and a company behind it, right? So my background is I've been in the digital marketing space for coming up on 10 years. Back when I was still in high school, I started getting served ads talking about, hey, you can learn SEO and rank websites and sell it to local businesses and make passive income and money and drop shipping. And et cetera, et cetera. So I ended up investing just over and over into myself and into different courses and programs, and communities, masterminds, business events that really got me deep into this space. And then through that process, one of my best friends growing up, and then we like were roommates together after high school. His name's Spencer Murphy. That's who is my business partner today for media scaling. And both of us kind of went down the same journey in this digital marketing space, worked with a lot of big personal brands leading up to starting the company. And then we came together and began media scaling a little over 2 years ago. In the last 2 years since we started it, we've generated over 5 billion views for our clients, more than 24 million in subscriber and follower growth. The brands that we work with collectively have over 134 million followers and subscribers across platforms. We've grown to a team of more than 100 people. It's been a crazy ride and journey. And so we just eat, sleep, and breathe social growth, right? And brand growth. And it comes to engineering effective content and then also mass distributing effective content. A big USP, unique selling proposition that we have largely pioneered is what we call the sub account strategy. And so when you are a brand, you have the resources and you're now good at monetizing and turning views into dollars, you no longer should just have one account on Instagram and one Facebook page and one YouTube channel and one TikTok account. You should have many that are all still branded to you, but allows you to distribute way more content. And so we'll come in and we'll create these sub accounts. They're sub brands essentially to distribute, a 10x, 20x, sometimes 100x increase in volume through a media division of lots of editors, social media managers, team leader, copywriter, clips coordinator, et cetera. And we're posting usually 1,200 to 3,000 pieces of content per month per client. And when you combine that with top quality content, a lot of posts go viral. And we're consistently generating anywhere between 5 million to 100 million views per month per client that we work with.
I think it's a genius strategy, and I just told you before we started here. I was like, man, this is something that you and I should actually discuss as me potentially being a client of yours. And we just met. I watched your VSL on your website, and I thought it was very interesting because I saw this sub account strategy become popular with the likes of Andrew Tate, where they
Yeah.
essentially hired an army to go and clip videos of him, and then they were compensated on the amounts of views that they were getting. So I think this is a really interesting market opportunity because you see it happening with Hormozi, you see it happening with Chris Williamson, Stephen Bartlett, different big podcasts that all of a sudden you have all of these random accounts. You don't even notice what the account is. You just recognize the clip that's being posted. And I think this is a massive area of opportunity. Really quickly, before we double click into the sub account strategy, I think that we glossed over a little bit about how the algorithm has changed. And I think that we really need to click here and explain why this can be irritating to people like me, where I've kind of built a brand and now I'm like, ooh, okay, now every single video needs to stand on its own again. But now also, every single video is a lottery ticket, literally a lottery ticket to whatever you guys want. And I can explain this because we just did this video where I was walking through the Tulum airport and I was with my creative director at the time and we were filming, and I had this idea about mini retirements. I was like, dude, why are we spending all of our time working 40 years when we could just work 2-3 years, take a summer off, stuff like that. It was a stupid 30-40 second video. 20 million views across platforms.
Nice.
I got
Yeah.
picked up on Fox News. Like, and I
That's
literally,
cool.
as we were editing it, it took me 20 seconds to edit. And as I was editing it, I remember specifically looking at him and I said, hey, man, just so you know, like every single one of these videos we do is a lottery ticket. I specifically remember saying that. And we posted it, woke up the next morning, and I was like, oh, cool. There's 50,000 new followers across platforms.
Won the lottery.
So talk about the difference between how the algorithm used to be and now how it is today, because it is a game changer for everybody listening.
Yeah. To your point, audience size matters way less
Mhm.
than it did 4 or 5 years prior. Um, Used to, the people who had the biggest audiences won, and it was hard to organically grow because so much emphasis was just put towards like, hey, who has the biggest audience that really pushes the content that's shown on the explore page and so on and so forth. And then also, every feed was much more geared towards who you follow, right? And so that's why it's like I framed that the feeds have changed from a following feed to a For You page. Really, like Gary Vee calls it the TikTokification of social media, but TikTok came in with short form content, vertical video, takes up your full screen, which is a big part of why it works, and um, usually 90 seconds or less made it to where anyone, regardless of audience size, could go viral and build an audience. And that's a big part of what flooded creators to their platform and had a lot of people who were not able to gain an audience on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, the main platforms at that time, come over and then started cranking with growth on TikTok. And all the other platforms saw what that did for TikTok and made it what's now the fourth largest platform, over a billion daily active users, very fast. And they followed suit. And every platform is seeing better results on watch time and engagement, and more creators, actually posting out content by making this switch. So this is not something that I see the platforms reverting back to, of going back to the following feed days. They're continuing to lean into this further. And so it goes back to what I mentioned. Every time you post short form video, majority of the reach, 50% plus, goes to non-followers that's targeted on interest. And so you can look at every piece of content as another at bat to go viral and get in front of a lot of new interest-based people. And the game becomes, one, how do we engineer virality? But then second, how do we post as much content of this engineered virality as possible, understanding that every single time we do post, it's essentially guaranteed hundreds, if not thousands, and potentially millions of new non-follower reach for free because it's fully organic.
I think it's a extraordinarily interesting strategy, and it can also be extraordinarily irritating for somebody that already has a brand. And you're
Yeah,
like, hold on a second. Like, why is this being shown to 2% of my audience and nobody else?
yeah,
But no, how it's working, Adam Mosseri, the founder, the CEO of Instagram right now, just did an interview on a podcast episode, and he said he specifically broke down how the algorithm works today, which is it's going to get sent out. So they're prioritizing 3-second views. So once you hit 3 seconds, somebody watches 3 seconds of your video, which lets you know how important the hook is, then it gets shown to a larger amount of audience that goes to the next 3 seconds and the next 3 seconds. And he said the exact same thing, where he goes, okay, now we're giving people more opportunity to have it shown to a small group of their followers and a small group of non-followers to see if it's an objectively good video. So what this means for people that are listening that maybe don't have a brand, you have 200 freaking followers on Instagram that your mom, your cousin, and freaking 20 friends from high school, you can post a video that has the potential to get 1 million views if you're speaking about something the right way, or you're sharing an interesting idea or a concept. Like you're not in a cage of having millions of followers to have your voice heard. And so let's talk to the person that is maybe the person that I run into the most, Logan. So this person is somebody that has a lot of industry knowledge, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's in buying businesses, running companies, starting companies, scaling companies, buying multifamily apartments, whatever have you. And they're not online. They're not talking about anything that they're doing. And they maybe don't see the benefit in it. But finally, after listening to my stuff a little bit, they're like, okay, I see why this matters. What are some steps that they can take to begin their personal brand and to establish that presence online without it feeling like they're doing a freaking job running this thing?
yep. Yeah, it's a great question. The easiest place to start is with short form content because that's currently what's getting pushed to the most new people. And it also has a lower barrier to entry because creating a short form video is easier than doing long form. There's just way more that goes into it.
YouTube is 10 to 100 times more work than I anticipated.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. YouTube is it's kind of like traditional media in Hollywood at this point, to where the top YouTubers have massive teams for the production element, pre-production, post-production, and so many moving pieces that go into it. Versus short form, you can still, to your point, you recorded just a selfie video on your phone and got 20 million views with some basic level editing because one, you had an amazing hook, and then you continued to keep the viewers hooked in and had a polarizing video that you were talking about. And it's kind of an against the grain, like contrarian viewpoint on it as well. And so all those factors taken together led to a 20 million view video that you were recording while you were walking through an airport, right? So it's not like you scheduled all this additional time out of your day to record that piece of content either. And so a lot of it is removing friction, right? And figuring out like, hey, what do I already do on a day to day that I can turn into content as well? And so a lot of us are doing Zoom calls constantly. If you get a professional camera and good lighting, good microphone, fairly easy stuff, go on YouTube and look up how to do it. There's a software called OBS that will take the footage from your Zoom calls and keep it in 4K or 1080p, top quality production. And you can turn that into content, right? And that takes none of your additional time. You can also do it to where if you have the resources, hire a creative director or a videographer and have them, just kind of shadow you and have a camera on of you doing your day to day. And you can get a lot of effective content out of that. That's what Gary Vee does. You can also, what I recommend is first just map out, all right, this month, where we see best results generally, there's always exceptions, is 2 posts per day per account across platforms. That's 60 videos a month. You can, with enough preparation, map it out and record 60 videos within somewhere between 3 to 8 hours of filming per month and still have it be great quality. And so maybe you decide, all right, I'm going to do 60 videos this month. And then you just have to map out what are all those topics going to be, prepare it first, and then schedule it in your calendar and batch the filming. So you knock it out all at once. This Alex Hormozi does a lot of this, right? For a long time, he built his brand to millions of people filming one time per month because he would follow this process and batch all the filming. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of different approaches that you can take to it to make it work for what you do. And then I have a whole nother segment, I'm kind of rambling at this point of engineering, like, all right, what do I even talk about? What kind of content strategy do I do? And everything that goes into that. Because I think that's also where a lot of people feel lost. They're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to talk about. I would run out of ideas. So there's a lot of solutions
1,000%.
for that too.
Yeah, let's I want to come back to that really quickly, but I want to
Yeah.
highlight a very important point because I work with Hormozi's team and I know them now, and I flew out to acquisition headquarters to interview Layla, and then I should be interviewing
Nice.
Alex here, hopefully here shortly. So in the beginning, they started off like that, right? So
Mhm.
they did the once per month thing, and they would
Yep.
sit and do talking head, and then Alex is really big on YouTube, like that's his primary focus.
Yep.
But now like Layla and them are starting to burn out and they're openly talking about it. They're just like, hey, I don't like doing this. I don't like sitting and recording everything in a batch. Like I feel like I'm in a freaking cage and I don't want to do this anymore. And now they're shifting back to that more so I'm going to go do my business and run my business. I just want somebody else to come and document it. So that just goes to show, I think it gives us permission that even the largest creators are allowing themselves to pivot and saying, hey, this worked, but I don't like doing this anymore. And you're allowed to make a shift. You're allowed to make a pivot. But I think what you were just about to talk about was one of the most important factors, which is what should you talk about? You know, like what problems are we solving for our target viewer, our target follower, our target engagement? Because not all followers are created equal. You know, we've anybody that's listening to this, if you haven't gone viral, the probably the worst thing that you could do for your account is to have an account and you have a stupid video go viral and you get a bunch of dumb followers that have nothing to do with your brand. So, Logan, what advice would you give to somebody that's trying to figure out what they should talk about in their content, in their brand?
Yeah, definitely. AI, it's the ultimate cheat code these days. And I've been using like a lot of different AI tools, the ChatGPT, other large learning models, AI agents, really since it became big in 2022. I've seen massive, massive improvements in the last 6 months, like seriously huge improvements. And so there's never been an easier time to develop across the board the strategies to be successful with content, with every other area of business and life, right? And so with ChatGPT, first step of what you want to do is identify who is your ICP, ideal client profile or ideal customer profile, right? But who do you want to build an audience with? Like, who is that person that you're speaking to in your content? When you get clear on that and you speak to that specific person, again, the platforms and the algorithms behind them have gotten so good at serving that content to the right person because they know how to bridge that gap together, right? And so, like what you said, is if you are creating content that's stupid and you bring in a lot of people who have nothing to do with your business or the reason you're creating content in the first place, like that's not what you want, right? That's not the goal here. So step one, get specific about who we're speaking to. Go to ChatGPT and you can just find prompts, even ask ChatGPT like, hey, what questions should I ask you to identify my ideal client profile or ideal customer profile? And it'll give you some pretty crazy specifics of the person, the demographics, their wants and needs and goals, desires, pain points, friction, roadblocks, challenges. And that gets you very clear of step one, who am I speaking to? Then step two, you want to build a brand identity. This really becomes the guiding light for your overall content strategy. Again, ask ChatGPT. It's like, hey, what is a brand identity? What does it include? Right? It'll give you one. And then feed it. The more context that you feed ChatGPT or any of these tools, the better answers it gives you. So anything and everything that you can, feed it into it for context. If you have a website, if you have any marketing materials, videos, if you already have been posting content on socials, and then you can even just ramble in a voice note for 10 minutes telling it like, this is what I want to do. This is what I like. These are some of my values and beliefs. It'll give you the questions that need to be answered for a brand identity, and you can like voice note into it what you generally think are a good, answer to each of those, and it'll refine it for you and get a lot of clarity. And so now you have your ICP or the person you're speaking to clearly defined, and you have a brand identity. Last step, ask ChatGPT. All right, based on these, what content strategy should I put out and what topics should I speak on in my content? It'll give you a lot of topics. It'll give you a great content strategy. And it's maybe not going to be 100% on each one of these answers, but you can refine it. Like whatever things that you don't fully align with, tell it in the next prompt and it'll give you better answers, right? And you get it to where it is 100%. And then you keep repeating that process. And once you have the content topics that you want to speak on, then you can ask it, it's like, all right, give me 20 hooks for each one of these topics that I can use in my videos. And then also give me an outline for each of these videos as well. And there you go. You have a fully fleshed out content strategy that's developed for your ICP with a clear brand identity and proven viral effective hooks that stop people from scrolling and grab their attention. And you're already, 90% of the way there.
Yeah, I 1000% compare it to if you're like trying to do like a giant sculpture, like Chat GPT can do the heavy lifting. It can find the marble for you. It can find the block of marble. It can put it
Yeah.
in front of you. It can chisel away like large chunks of it until you can see the shape of a man in front of you. And then it's up to you to come and chisel the fine details. Because a word of caution that I would say with all of this though is a lot of the times we see our favorite creators start very niche and all of a sudden begin to expand out because they're doing what's called increasing your TAM, total addressable market. And so you'll see your favorite business influencer start just sharing motivational quotes and life advice. And then you see that and you say, oh, okay, so motivational quotes and life advice and platitudes are the way that I'm going to grow my account and grow my personal brand. But that's probably the worst thing you could do. And I've fallen victim to this because you start seeing your favorite people do it, but they're able to because there's already brand recognition there, because they've already put the reps in the years and they've already gotten the business accomplishments and accolades that allows them to have recognizability. So now they just need to get in front of more people at scale. So what you just said was amazing. The way that I did it was back before AI was a thing, and I literally just did this thing called like talking to humans. And so I just did 100 free coaching calls on my podcast, and I was like, hey, what are you running into? And so I identified the top 4 to 10 problems that each person was running into. And I branched those out into 10 different solutions for 10 of the different problems. Those are the 100 pieces of content that I talk about and like the 100 different video ideas that I do. To your point, you could do that through ChatGPT, but also to make it even easier, what helped you? Talk to you 4 years ago. Seriously, because you want to help people through some type of transformation. If you're in the development space and you want to get some money out of it, you want to get some revenue, you want to actually build a business, you have to help people with expensive problems. So Logan, to that point, for all the different paths to monetization through brand, through media, what paths have you found to be the best for people? Is it advertising? Is it sponsorships? Is it launching your own product like we see Jake Paul and KSI do with Prime? Is it online courses still? Like what is the path that you see working?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of those, suggestion answers of advertising and sponsorships and launching a product similar to what Jake Paul did, that is more of, I would say, the influencer route, the YouTuber route, the podcaster route. When I say personal brands, it's really business owners. right? Who create content to grow their business. And at the end of the day, that is what by far makes the most money with socials, is if you have a business that you can tie to your brand and content. So I'll speak on that first, and then the other route of if you don't have a business, kind of promoting other businesses and how to make money through that process. But when you have a business, whether it is courses, like that's a business, right? It's the info product space. If you have a service based business, a software, whatever, tie it to your personal brand and really push towards that. That's what's going to make the most. And the best way to take people from organic content to getting into the ecosystem of your business, I found, is just free, highly valuable stuff, right? And so that could be taking people from short form videos to your long form content, and then your long form videos sprinkle in calls to action that lead people to your business. Or on the short form platforms, you can really push what's called lead magnets, which is just a highly valuable free thing that people opt in for with their name and email, and ideally phone number when you get to the point that you build a sales team, or if you do this yourself, to where you can call them and get them on the phone if you're doing over the phone sales. And free lead magnets that work great. I mean, there's tons of ideas that you can do. Again, you can ask ChatGPT based on when it knows your ICP and your brand identity and your content strategy. And if you have a business, feed it all the information you can about your business. It'll give you pretty killer lead magnet suggestions. But free courses work great, tools work great. Webinars are still king, by the way. A lot of our clients are, almost all of them, 10 million plus brands, some doing 100 million plus, and a few doing, over 10 figures in annual sales each year. And especially when it's more of the online digital based business space, out of everything else, our most successful clients who are doing high eight figures, nine figures, and beyond, webinars is like the main thing that works best for them. And so you can really lean into that. They work incredibly well still. They haven't gone anywhere. Um, and you can also do free training videos, VSLs, just whatever is going to really resonate. And when you have free things, you want to make it as valuable as possible. Like, a lot of people don't want to give away their best stuff for free because they think that that's like, what they need to sell and they can't depart from it. But if you give something for free that's mediocre and people go through it, they're absolutely not going to want to buy from you because it was mediocre. Versus if it's something that's so good, they felt like they should have paid a lot of money for it and they got a ton of value from it, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine if this is their free stuff, what their paid stuff is going to be like. And so it creates a lot more throughput and conversion for you. Um, so that's the personal brand side. And then to keep it quick with the more like YouTuber, podcaster, influencer approach, if you don't have a business, it's really, you know, ideally you partner and promote other people's businesses. And if you're big enough, you can even get cuts of equity, right? That's at a very large level, but equity is what, again, makes the most money. If you're not there, brand deals are great. Podcasters make great money if they have a big enough audience with Patreon. And you can get specific and creative of benefits that people get from joining your Patreon community. There's platforms now like WAP and School that allow you to build paid communities around any interest. And so that's still at that point a business, but it's something that you don't have to have a full team behind, and you can approach it from like a more solo standpoint. So there's not a one best answer. There's people making a lot of money in basically every way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really important because a lot of the times, like I share that the single greatest investment that I've ever made, the highest ROI investment ever um, in my entire life was this $279 microphone because it's printed me millions and millions of dollars. And everybody comes to that and then they go look at my show and they're like, oh, I don't believe this. I don't believe you're getting enough sponsorships or ad revenue to do that. I'm like, yeah, dude, because I don't advertise. The only thing I advertise is my own company. Like I've turned down six-figure ad deals, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to advertise on this podcast because the only thing that we advertise is our own community, our own mastermind. That is the one thing that we do. And exactly to your point, like the more value that you give away for free, if we have a really banger call in our community, if we have a really wonderful keynote speaker that I spent tens of thousands of dollars to fly out to the Dominican Republic or somewhere to speak to our people, I'm posting that for free on the podcast. I'm giving away the calls for free on the podcast. Like we actively push to give away the absolute best material that we have for free on the podcast because people don't pay for information, they pay for implementation. They pay for somebody to actually help hold their hand and hold them accountable through the entire process. So I think that that was super interesting that you said that because I 100% agree. I think that in the beginning everyone thinks, "Oh, I'm going to do this for ad revenue and sponsorship credits." But really what you want to do is from the get-go find a way to build a business around it and then start making that best parts of that business free content that's out there and then have that lead magnet to bring people in. I think it's absolutely genius. But really quickly on the webinars, because this is something that's just like top of mind for me, what service have you found to be best here? Because we've tried Zoom, where we could see the people, and I enjoy that. We've tried, I think we tried Webinar Jam for a little bit. We've tried a few of them, but I couldn't even like see people. So that was my issue with Webinar Jam. Like, walk us through. This is going to be more the technical side of the interview, but what's the kind of preferred funnel here for the webinars?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you. I don't know off the top of my head. Different clients and brands use different
Damn it,
software.
Logan.
I
Damn it.
think it's more so at the end of the day, it's less about the tech stack as long as everything integrates and works smoothly. And it's more about the actual webinar itself, right? And the actual execution of it. And so if you have an incredible webinar and a great resource, like I think would be more valuable to people. I actually learned this from Alex Hormozi, where he learned the most about webinars is this guy named Jason Fladlian. He has I bought his program years back for building out webinars, and he has a book on Amazon. I don't remember the title, but if you search Jason Fladlian book, it'll come up, and it's basically the same thing. And
How
it's
do you, what's
15,
it, what's
20
his
bucks.
last name? How do you spell that?
Fladlian is, if I remember
Fladlian?
correctly, Fladien.
I think
That should,
close enough. Yeah, that should I
yeah.
should pull it up. So he wrote a book on webinars.
Yeah, and Jason Fladlian has broke records. He's sold over $30 million in one webinar. The people like Russell Brunson, founder of ClickFunnels, really popularized like the perfect webinar formula, et cetera. Russell supposedly learned from Jason, right? And like a lot of the top guys like have learned from Jason. He's kind of the OG in the space, and so that's an incredible place to start. And yeah, it's more about like the delivery and the execution of the webinar than anything else. A lot of people also try and take it evergreen or automate it too fast. Like you do one webinar and then you're like, all right, I'm done. And you take that recording and then you make it an evergreen webinar. Don't do that unless you already have tons of experience doing webinars. Because if you continue to do live webinars, your 20th and then your 50th are going to be so much better, insanely
Exponentially
better
better.
than the first, right? And you have to, before you make it evergreen and automated, you have to get really fucking good
Mhm.
at the webinars, and you got to put in the reps to do it. So don't try
You're
and
telling
automate
me
it too
it's not
quick.
just you're telling me it's not just solved by tech and
Yeah.
AI, Logan?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Hey,
All right.
maybe another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
today.
yeah. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I'm going to nerd out with Logan. So, you guys sit tight, buckle up, and I'm going to ask the questions I want to ask now because I helped you guys. Now we get to get into the weeds of it. So, walk me through this sub account strategy because I think it's super interesting. What body of content are you looking for a creator or somebody that you're identifying as like your ICP? Like, because obviously you can have a lot of content that's just shit content and you're putting out 1,000 pieces of shit content. So what are you guys doing to kind of figure out, like what content, like do they need to have a certain amount of a bank, like a hall of fame of content for you guys to even consider the strategy, or how does this work?
So, who is the best fit for sub accounts? More importantly than anything else, it comes down to the business side. If you are very good at monetizing and taking all the views, the reach, the followers that you gain from organic content and turning it into revenue and profit for your business, that's going to be the first most important point that we look for. Because if we come in and let's say we're generating tens of millions of views for someone, but they don't have a good business on the back end, it's not scalable. They haven't figured out how to convert those audiences, whatever the case, they're going to make a significantly less money versus the business owner who has things really dialed in and they're already monetizing effectively. So that's why a lot of the majority of our clients for our done for you service on sub accounts already have generally somewhere around an eight-figure
Millions of
business,
dollars. Yeah.
millions
Yeah.
of dollars coming in annually. Yep. And then the second piece is the content side. Now, a lot of the clients that we work with, they already have existing brands and they're already have an existing content strategy, if that's the case, then we want to see proof of concept. And so we just want to see consistent growth. Is their content performing? Do they have views coming in? If that's the case, we can come in and repurpose and clip up their existing content and just do way more of it, right? In different styles of editing. And there's different creative approaches that you can take to mix up the content as well. And they're going to see a massive jump in viewership. If there's not proof of concept there, or we're working with a very successful, let's say, founder, but they're starting to do this from scratch, then we have to, and we do this with all of our clients regardless, but we're more of a partner on the strategy side as well. And so for our clients, like, we're sending over what are the most effective types of content right now in your space. We're sending over hooks, we're sending over script outlines that they can use, and we're really, holding their hand through that whole process to make sure that things are as effective as possible. Um, and there is a learning curve. Like, if you're new to content, it's just like anything else. You got to put in the reps, right? It's like the first time you go to the gym, you're not going to bench a lot of weight. But after you've been doing it for years, you can start to stack on more and more weight on that bar. Same thing happens when you're in front of the camera. If you're not used to filming content, everyone gets shocked and they're kind of awkward. You have to practice being a better communicator and just getting more comfortable. That comes with repetition. And so you need to have the mindset going into this that you're just not going to stop. Like, you're going to do this for years, regardless of what happens, because for most people, it does not happen overnight in the course of, a few months. It happens over the course of years because everything exponentially compounds with this. It's not linear growth. Um, so that's really the main two categories. That's for the personal brand side. If we're working with consumer brands, it's like e-commerce, software, media companies, etc. We still want them to be at that 8-figure mark. And that approach is we'll build them an army of influencers and UGC creators to create a bunch of content on their behalf, which can also, significantly drive results for them.
Yeah, I think it's an insanely interesting path because, to your point, like, yeah, we do two pieces of content on Instagram, TikTok. Like, YouTube Shorts could take a little bit more. Facebook and Instagram are basically, we try to do one a day on Facebook. So I mean, that's our media machine right now, and like, we're building out an entire team, an entire company for this to like literally do like what Alex did, Dan Martell did, Cody did. Like, that's the what we're chasing over the next couple of years. So I guess one of my questions is, for all these sub accounts, like, how do they direct traffic back to your main account?
Yeah, great question. You can tag the main socials in majority of the content. We've seen sometimes if we tag in every single post, the platform will like flag us for spam behavior or whatever it's done. But so we'll tag in majority of the content. And if you have a video that starts to perform well and the main socials are not tagged in it, you can go back and add the tag and it doesn't mess with performance. Um, Also in the content, let's say if we're doing this for a personal brand like you, we'll have their main social handle as like a watermark when they're speaking at different points, but do it cleanly. And we see that that just helps with brand and people knowing like who is speaking. All the usernames are branded to, the main social itself. And so it would be like, Brian Clips, Brian Reels, Brian Talks, Brian Advice, so on and so forth, um, with your last name included also. And so all that would drive back and still create that brand association. Pinned comments are a huge, like, underutilized tool for socials. But on basically every post across platforms, you can add pinned comments. And I love doing calls to action on pinned comments
Mhm.
because you can have the entire video itself be fully value driven, and not have any CTA, call to action. And then only that is included in the pinned comment. And what I see is that doesn't affect engagement, doesn't affect the overall performance of posts. Because a lot of the time, if you're selling in your content aggressively, it off puts people, the engagement drops. So there's a balance of like, how do I get calls to action in front of as many people as possible? Because if we're not telling people to take an action, they won't, right? CTAs are what drive performance, but do it in a way that it doesn't drop performance. It's not like overselling to the audience. Pinned
Mhm.
comments are a great way to do it. The only people who see a pinned comment are the people who have already watched the content and they go to the
And now they're
comment
looking
like,
at the comments, so they're
yeah,
they're a very engaged listener. So
100%.
yeah, my big thing right now is we are doing a kind of a restructure of content because we've been flatlined on Instagram. We've been like right under 300,000 followers on Instagram for a year. And so it's been irritating, but now we're starting to see some momentum again because we're really focusing on doing value led content, which gets, by the way, 1/10 of the views for people listening. Like it just does not perform as well, but it engages better with the person that you're actually looking for. So just because you're getting views doesn't necessarily mean like it's like the best thing in the world, right?
The right views
So
you want,
it's the
the right
right
people.
views that you want, right? So we're starting to grow a little bit there. But the biggest area of opportunity that I see something like this in is like our podcast. Like this podcast, we do hundreds of thousands of downloads, top level guests on it. We don't do video. We barely post video. And I've been kicking and screaming, being like, why is the show not growing? Why is the show not growing like I want to? And then you go see Talk Tua on freaking TikTok, go to one of the top podcasts in the world. And then all the rest of us are like throwing our hands up in the air. And then even Hormozi had his moment with Kylie Jenner, and he goes, are you serious? She's on the cover of Forbes? Really? And so now I think that's a wonderful area of opportunity because like there's just so much that we're not doing with short form from the podcast, from clipping the long form. So to tie this back into a question, what are some ways that you see people going wrong with their content? And we'll go ahead and talk to somebody that is already versed with content. They're already used to posting. They already know kind of the algorithms and the rules, but they just find themselves kind of stagnant and flat. What's some advice you can give them to get to that next level?
Yeah, totally. Almost always when I see that happen, it's because they're doing the same thing that worked for them 5 years ago, right? And they haven't like adapted
Guilty,
and changed
guilty.
up the content strategy. And with the shift of what we talked about, everything is more of a for you page than a following feed. You get all the non-follower reach. You have to create all your content for people who don't know who you are and they've never seen you before, but then still have it apply and be valuable to your existing audience as well, and kind of blend both of those together. And really, you have to go out and just see what is working the best, right? And so, my favorite two tools for doing that for video is TikTok search and then viewstats.com, which is Mr. Beast YouTube software tool. It's awesome. Both of those are what I found is the best, basically, search engine tools for short form video content. You can go to TikTok and then search any keyword that you want. So, let's say that you are a sales trainer and you want to do sales coaching. Search sales advice, and then it's going to show you all the top performing videos for that keyword. And then study those videos and learn why they perform so well. Pay attention to the type of video itself. Are they on a podcast? Are they speaking on stage? Are they on the street? Are they doing a mock podcast, talking to someone else? Like, what is the production of it? Like, really pay attention to the actual video itself, and then pay attention to the hook, their verbal hook, and what is the visual hook as well. Like, is there a text on screen that also hooks them in on top of what they're saying? And then just pay attention to the pacing of it, the edits, everything. Like, study it. And if you do that for even just like 4 hours in one day and a cup of coffee, and you have a sheet and you're like noting down what you see as the top performing content for different keywords. After you do sales advice, go to biggest sales mistakes, and then you can put in ChatGPT, hey, give me 100 keyword variations based on sales that I can search for this process, right? And get creative with just like what you're searching. See tons of content out there. You're going to find all the top people in the space whose content is performing the best today, not 5 years ago. And then don't copy and paste it, but model and innovate. Get inspiration from what they're doing and make it your own. And you have to pivot. You have to continuously, reshape your content strategy, because what worked yesterday many times is not what works today.
Yeah, that's what we're working on right now. And I try to tell people that your content is like an Amazon box. Like we already know what size the box should be from Amazon. They know exactly how big it needs to be, exactly what dimensions to ship, and go through the mail service to get to your front porch. Don't try to change the box. Don't try to change the container. Like just change what's inside of it. So like go take the container from someone else that's already gotten millions of views. What I used to do um, is I used to like do a lot of stitches. So I would take other hooks that I knew were viral and went millions of views, and then I would add my flavor to it, and I'd say, "Hey,
Yep.
here's my opinion on this." And so
Mhm.
that was a good example. I called it hook jacking. So I mean, that was a big way
Yes.
that we got up. But if you go on TikTok and you search "how to quit your job," a lot of it's me.
Right.
So I
Right.
popped up. But the issue that we ran into now 2 years later is we got into a reinforcement loop where, okay, people love the idea of quitting their job, and we're getting hundreds of thousands of followers from this idea. But now those hundreds of thousands of followers, what we found is that while that's required to gain new audience, the audience that followed for that also needs content which is middle of funnel, that is actually going through the how that we talk about on the podcast to do the thing. So now we're doing to your point, we're balancing that strategy out, because before it was just like, oh my god, if I do a video on commercial real estate, I maybe will do 20,000 views, but if I do a video on quitting your job, I'll get 2 million. But now that audience is like, okay, cool, bro, tell me how. Like, I'm not going to listen to the podcast. I want to know how on the videos.
Yep.
So that's super interesting, man. So if
It's
people,
it's a double-edged sword. It's extremely common for people who've been in the game for longer term. I was at dinner with Brandon Carter a couple of nights ago, and he's in the fitness space, been creating content for I believe like 12 years,
oh,
right? And
long
he was
time,
talking,
yeah,
yeah, he was talking about he's got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's like, dude, there's probably a portion of them who are literally dead. Like they're not even alive anymore. Right. And it's like when you've been creating content for that long, but then also when you've been creating content for a period of time, like your audience from years ago, they're in a different phase of life. They're in a different chapter. Things have changed. Their interests have changed. Like what they're paying attention to changes. And so it's kind of like a curse in a way, or a double-edged sword, because it happens to any creator who's been, doing this for a long time and built a big audience of just engagement drop off. And you can do everything right, but there's still going to be people who their interest changes in what their content is. Maybe they have kids and now they're just in a different phase of their life, or
and
they
that's
change careers in
okay.
business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I would
so there's,
the worst case scenario would be one of those guys that's making videos that were like, they're still making the same videos they were making 5-10 years ago. That's the worst one. Besides against Dave
yeah,
Ramsey, I mean, he's just been telling people to save money and stop being stupid for 30 years.
totally. Yeah. And there's always new people that fit into that bucket. And so
Always.
it's kind of but with his point, a lot of people who the goal is like with you're teaching people how to quit their job.
Mhm.
Ideally, after a few years of watching your content and even
I
taking
hope
it
they quit their
further,
job.
they have
Yeah.
quit their job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's what's next. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now they're in a new phase, a new chapter, right? And so that's just that's the nature of it with your content strategy and the audience that you're speaking to. But it's a sign of success. That means that, what you're helping them with is actually
Correct.
working too.
Exactly. So, man, if people want to find out more about you, what you do, your company, they want to follow you online, where can they go to see more about you?
Yeah. Our website is mediascaling.com. Whether you are a brand that fits the criteria we look for, or we have a lot of really valuable free stuff on there. We have a social media newsletter that really goes over top updates on socials and what 100 million plus brands are doing that's working really well, at scalingedgenews.com as well. And then I'm on socials at Logan Forsyth, basically across platforms. I just started a YouTube channel and putting out the long form content myself and putting a lot of effort into it. And I think
It's a
it's
lot.
extremely valuable yeah, it is a lot. I think it's extremely valuable for any founders, personal brands, and consumer brands who are already at like a further stage and they're looking to take it to the next level.
100%. YouTube's the only platform out of all of them that pays you for attention, to pay you
Yeah.
for the views. So
A,
it's
a
harder,
note,
but it's worth it.
yeah, a note I wanted to say earlier also is a lot of people fully rely on AdSense and brand deals to make money from socials. That is a long, treacherous road, my friend. It's like if that's the only approach, I've connected at this point with countless people who have millions of subscribers and they're not making a lot of money
ten
because they're
thousand
only
dollars a
relying on
month.
ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10,000 a month. And when you get to the point to 10,000 a month is kind of nothing because that's not
Mhm.
income, that's revenue, right? And you have to put some of that money back into the business of creating new content. If you have any team in place, whatever, your income is probably half that. And then you take taxes out. And the next thing you know, you have like 4,000 a month in income. And so that is not a lot of money when you're only relying on AdSense. And so my suggestion is like go out there and get some equity as fast as possible, right? Whether it's starting your own business or go and find someone who is a business genius and become the face of their brand and you get equity through that format, right? But that's what's really going to make you the most money.
This has been Logan and Brian with the Action Academy podcast, signing off.